Right, guys, it's pretty gloomy today, and I had some good news and some bad news in the old tax office. I mean, you're not going to get good news, are you? Most of the time from tax offices and people like that. So anyway, I went down there yesterday or the day before, and they said that I owed quite a bit more money than I was expecting. But anyway, um, it was related to I sold a piece of land last year, and what they did was we all sat down. We came to because they didn't demand any tax for years and years and years and years and years, over a decade. But it turned out okay because they can only go back 5 years. So that's what we did when it, when I was selling the land, and you have to actually declare to the notario that there's no taxes owed. So what you do is you go to the tax office normally and make sure you pay up to date with the property or the land. So that's what we did. So I thought. Anyway, so it goes in a couple of days ago. Well, it was a couple of weeks ago now. I went to the um, Easy Pay one stop shop, and they couldn't work it out. So they said go to the tax office. So I said, all right, yeah. So I had a feeling then that it was connected with this other piece of land. So I went in and I said, look, we sat down in the office with these people, and I said we sat down in that office over there, and we came to a final figure, and it was okay. I was quite in the end. I got away with quite a lot of tax, like about another 7 8 years tax. Um, so they can, because they can only go back 5 years. That's the rule. So if you can avoid tax for over a decade, you're going to come out on top as long as you're ready for the 5 years. Which it's not. Well, it was quite a. It was a bit of money, but I was selling the land, so for a small profit. Anyway, so it goes in. He said, "You still owe this money," and I said, "Well, we came to a final figure." No, 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 we didn't. No, we didn't. I said, "Well, how come I've been allowed to sell it then? Because you're supposed to be up to date with the taxes, or otherwise it's flagged by the notario or whoever." Anyway, so I had to get some help involved with the guy who set it, who was there negotiating on my behalf or with me. Because it gets quite technical, so it's hard with the language sometimes. It's easy to buy fruit and veg, if you know the names of the fruits, but like when you get technical, and they get technical, it's jargon on purpose, isn't it? Same anyway. Anyway, so that was the bad news. And well, I paid it, and the good news is it's over. It really is now finished. She said it's finished. She could see the logic. There was no logic. What they said is, no, you paid up to the end of the previous year. I sold it in June. So I was thinking, well, why didn't you just work it out to that day? And there was, I don't know the reason. I haven't a clue. Maybe it's because the full half year hadn't transpired. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, the logic. It's just the tax office logic, isn't it? Anyway, if they can't work that out, if a part of half of the year, you just work it out. You just divide it by as many days. I would have thought, just charge the half of the year, one or the other. innit? And another good news was the council tax for the house was £13.75 in English money for the year. So you can't grumble at that, you know. Anyway, and the other day I closed my account, my Lev account, with a heavy heart, because they're going into the euro now. Now it's all coming out now. It's all coming out because people are going to the banks now, changing to euros, you know, so to avoid a rush or shortage or whatever, which would be a good thing for everyone. But what the banks are doing is they said, oh, no, it's going to be a fixed rate. When we swap over to the euro, it's going to be fixed, blah, blah, blah. And now it isn't until... So you've got to wait now till January the 1st with these levs, and then there'll be an almighty rush, this is what'll happen. I'll tell you what'll happen, and then they'll all collapse, and there'll be a waiting period, and there'll be queues round the block. That's what's going to happen, because now they're gouging. Because before January the 1st, it turns out they don't have to have this fixed rate that's been set by the government and themselves. And this is what they're like. And this is why people like me are right when they said that going into the euro is going to be not beneficial to you, the people. It's not going to be beneficial. And people listen to them, and they've let it go. They've let it go through. So that's where we're at with that. And after the new year, after the 1st of January, when they go into the euro, the changes don't have to swap at the fixed rates. Only banks, post offices, and other places. Bureau de change, because they know everyone's going to go there. So it's not fixed. So they're gonna have a bonanza. The Bureau de change they'll have a big stack of euros waiting, and they can hike the prices, and that's what's happening. They've hiked the exchange rate, and they said it wasn't going to happen. But they did, there were all these assurances and all this, but they didn't make it clear. They didn't make it clear that it was only certain places and on certain dates these things came about. That's what they do. Anyway, you got to expect all these things, and now they say inflation has gone up to 4.4% or whatever. But it's not inflation. It's not inflation. They haven't increased the money supply or anything like that. It's price gouging. It's pre-speculation, which me and the president, me and Ruman told everybody that this is what would happen, that they pre-gouge, because they've got all these watchdogs ready for January the 1st. So what the shops and all the businesses are doing is saying, well, when this comes around, we're not going to be able to increase any prices for at least 6 months, I think it is. So the gouging everything, that's what's going to happen. If people can't see all this. So now they're paying more. They're getting a bad rate, which they said it wasn't going to affect anybody. And the people who want to change privately have got to pay even more, because they've got to go to Bureau de change. Because in the bank they've got the surveillance already ready in place for when you go in with your levs, and they're going to snitch on you, because it's all connected now to the tax office, like everywhere in Europe. So it's all not in your favour, and there's people running around saying, "Oh yeah, it's going to make us all wealthy." Well, you're not wealthy now, are you? It hasn't made you wealthy yet, and it won't do. It won't. There's no evidence of it ever. There was a comment that he said there's no real proof of joining the euro being a detriment to any country. Well, there is. There is. It was a direct result that Greece were persuaded or allowed, because it was against the rules what they did, not the law, the rules. They have these rules where you've got so much fiscal responsibility, and they just shoved it aside and just borrowed as if there was no tomorrow, and spent as if there was no tomorrow on garbage like the Olympics, which is like a globalist. It's turned into a globalist message. I've got an itch on my nose. Maybe I'm telling lies. I think it's I don't know, spider's web or something. Anyway, so it's raining. It's raining at the moment, and I was just too late. 5 minutes. Getting the washing in. And guess what's being washed? Guess what's in the wash? All my rags. So there'll be clean rags. For those who are interested in my outfits, my daily outfits, which seems to be interesting to some people, rather than talking about real issues like. So there you go. So it's all the bureaucracy, and you've got to expect this, and you've just got to weigh it up and think, right. So I rang this guy up, and he spoke to the woman in the tax office, and she handed the phone back, and he gave me the news. He said, "Oh yeah, but this tax that stays there." And he explained it, and if you thought about it, you go bonkers. You'd go bonkers. You'd just say, well, why couldn't he just work it out? When you do a final bill, say you move house, you do the final bill on the electric. It's the same as that. That's what I thought they did, and so did he, because he said they're going to work out the final payment, and and he said that as well, absolutely, and I think they did. I'm not sure. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. He said, I said, well, see what we can do. I rang him up beforehand, and I said, I'll call you when I'm in the tax office if I get into like a cul-de-sac, which that's what it was. And like she would never have been able to explain it to me, because there's no logic. So only they know these certain things. It used to be like that, even more so in the UK, and they simplified a lot of things because it's quite simple. Working out all your tax, and then they had emergency tax, and then they had this, that, the other. Never in your favour, anyway. Unless you knew the system, which there are ways around the tax there. I was a limited company, which worked out great. Anyway, that's past history, another story. Anyway, so that's it. We're in good shape now, because it's one other thing out of the way in my downsizing. I also look at downsizing of getting rid of baggage. I have no contracts for anything, no standing orders for anything, nothing, no mortgage, no nothing, no debt. It's all pay as you go, and and you can pay online here, but it's difficult with my setup because I'm paying things through a limited company, and it's all set up to pay through your national ID number, and it doesn't work for a company, a limited company, which is I pay some things through a limited company and some things not direct debit or anything like that. Standing order, you wouldn't want to set one of them up here. They'd empty your pockets. Anywhere. That's what they do. Anywhere. They always do that in the UK, like council tax, and they always take one more payment than they should. Have you noticed that? They always do, even if you cancel it. They always just take another payment, and then they'll cancel it. Although you've told them in good time. Oh yeah, well, we didn't update our records until now, we took an extra payment, then you've got to try and get it back. So I wouldn't have any direct debits or standing orders or anything, nothing. And auto renew, all that garbage. Auto renew, that's another one. So anyway, what they're also doing in Bulgaria now is they're selling bonds in anticipation to getting in more debt, because with the euro they can. It's going to be a disaster, and I was talking to a few people about eating out. Bulgaria's, it's like off the charts. It's not cheap anymore, and it's not. The food's not up to it. And this is and these are Bulgarians I'm talking to. And one guy, he said, well, the food's better in Greece and it's round about the same price now. And that's the same in Albania. Food's better. Food's better, and I had some lovely food in Romania. I think we only went out, eat out once or twice. We had a lovely pizza in a place on the road, and then we had a proper meal, because I think it was my road trip manager's birthday, 83. And there's a place in Cluj-Napoca, and if you ever go there, look out for the panorama. Now, to get there, you've got to have your sat-nav or your phone directions. You'd never find it. Panorama. Restaurant and hotel. It's absolutely fantastic. Just for the view. You're overlooking the city. And it's like a crow's nest type view. You're like right there, as if you're on because it's like almost a sheer drop down to the city. Fantastic. And you can see everything, and it's like all mountains behind it. Cluj-Napoca. The panorama. So if you ever get the chance, go there. Anyway, so all these things are happening now. This inflation and all this, and they're saying it's because of this, that, the other. It's not. They're just price gouging. There's no. They haven't done anything. Usually, you get inflation from certain things happen, like interest rates and stuff like that, or energy spikes, which it hasn't. All the rest of it. And there's no reason why. And that was another article I read the other day. There's no reason fiscally why, for any reason, for any inflation at the moment in Bulgaria. So it's all happening as warned. So all those people who are bringing the euro in, it's not benefiting anybody, any people. And it won't. It never has done in the history for any countries. Maybe Germany. They benefited at the beginning, but they're not now. Once your economy starts collapsing, the euro becomes your enemy. Anyway, so everybody was warned and told, and I'm looking seriously now, seriously, about North Macedonia, because it's 40% on most items cheaper. That's nearly half the price, and it's just as nice there, and it's even nicer if it's cheaper, isn't it?